I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world?
The world seemed to stop for a moment as Taehyung's name echoed from lips to lips. One voice after another expressed love, concern, and admiration. However, amidst the spotlight, a suspicious silence emerged from the most unexpected place, HYBE itself. Taehyung wasn't just an idol. He was a walking poem, a soul living between notes and gazes that penetrated the hearts of his fans. But now, that poem seemed torn apart, as the world witnessed a crushing injustice. Fans from all over the world united in sympathy and anger. They cried out silently online, expressing their unanswered concerns. A gaping wound arose because the agency chose to remain silent. HYBE, the home of stars, allowed one of its brightest lights to dim without a lamp. When the world asked questions, they simply put up a stone wall that wouldn't be cracked by empathy. This silence has now become a mystery more shocking than slander or cheap rumors. Shouldn't the voice of truth be louder than the clink of money? But why does silence dominate? Taehyung's face still graced the stage and screen, but his smile seemed to stop midway. There was a look in his eyes that bore the burden, yet he still tried to stand tall. A resilience that silently cut through. Behind the fans' laughter, there were hidden tears. They knew their idol didn't deserve to be treated this way. There was a building anger, not out of hatred, but out of love that felt betrayed by the system. Many asked, where had the promised protection gone? Where had the voice of justice that should have come from within, not from without, gone? Didn't HYBE see the storm that had dragged Taehyung's name down? While the world stood by his side, his agency chose to turn its back on him. A paradox that neither logic nor emotion could accept. Those who should have been his shield now seemed like a frightening shadow. Taehyung was attacked, slandered, and his privacy invaded. But he kept going, though his steps were shaky. He bowed his head not because he was defeated, but because he didn't want to worry the world. An attitude only a big heart can possess. His fans lit candles of love in every corner of social media. They weren't just fanatics, they were a wounded family. They wanted to speak, they wanted to be heard, but HYBE's walls were too thick. Was this all just because Taehyung was too bright? Or was there a behind-the-scenes game that sacrificed one to save the other? These questions hung unanswered. Taehyung's every action was now scrutinized with suspicion. His every move was monitored, his every smile was stripped of its meaning. But HYBE? They remained silent, pretending everything was fine. This wasn't the first time an idol had been treated unfairly by the system that raised them. But when it happened to Taehyung, a star known for his gentleness and sincerity, the wound was even deeper. Not only were fans disappointed, but so were those who believed the entertainment industry could change, could be more humane. Unfortunately, HYBE's silence only confirmed an old fear, that money and image were more important than soul. This silence wasn't just about management. It was about humanity. This is about how a human being is treated in the midst of a storm, not just as a product, but as a soul worthy of protection. Industry analysts began to speculate. Was there an internal conflict? Was there a contract being manipulated? But whatever the answer, the public saw only one thing: indifference. Many hoped HYBE would finally speak up. Not to clarify matters for the sake of image, but to express their side. Were they with Taehyung, or were they leaving him to wander alone in the darkness? Taehyung himself remained silent. He didn't defend himself, didn't attack. He simply stared at the world with eyes that had held wounds for too long. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he just wanted to be allowed to breathe. But the love of his fans was too great to leave him alone. They created hashtags, petitions, videos of support, all for one thing: to let Taehyung know he wasn't alone. Every night, thousands of messages of love flooded the internet. Words of encouragement, prayers, hopes that his smile would return to being genuine and unburdened. But above all, they also demanded justice. HYBE perhaps thought that silence was the safest path. But they forget, in today's open world, silence can be a more painful scream. A scream from a heart that ignores. Taehyung doesn't need to be defended with sweet words. He needs real justice. He needs a system that stands by him, not just stands with him when the weather is sunny. One by one, celebrities, influencers, and even foreign media outlets began to speak out. They put the spotlight on HYBE, questioning its integrity. The world began to rally around Taehyung, even as his agency remained unmoved. The fans remained patient. But they weren't fools. They knew when to speak up. If their voices continued to be ignored, this might be the turning point in their relationship with HYBE. Even the most loyal can turn away if pain is allowed to persist. And if HYBE doesn't realize this soon, they will lose something more valuable than mere shares: trust. Taehyung once said he wanted to make the world warmer. But who will warm Taehyung's world when he's frozen in loneliness? The world's eyes were now on HYBE. They awaited answers. Not for the sake of controversy, but for the hope that goodness could still live in this industry. Because if not now, when will the truth stand? If not HYBE, who else should be there for Taehyung? And if the voices of love from millions of hearts still aren't enough to move them, perhaps it's time for the world to speak louder. Not with anger, but with undeniable truth. Taehyung doesn't just belong on stage. He belongs to hearts that feel that justice isn't an option, but a necessity. And the world is fighting for it, even if he himself is too silent to ask for it. When Taehyung is hurt, the world doesn't just grieve, it trembles. There's a soft thump in every heart that remembers how he reached out to those who fell, only to be abandoned when he himself fell. Many still can't believe it. A figure who was known for being gentle, patient, and compassionate is being exposed as someone worthy of suspicion. But who are we really questioning, him or the system? HYBE may think they can hide the storm with silent curtains. But the wind can't be kept out by simply closing the windows. The world already smells the scent of wounds forced into silence. This emptiness left unchecked breeds doubt. Not only to the company, but also to the hope that idols are truly treated humanely behind the glittering screen. Taehyung never asked to be protected. He's too humble for that. But fans know, if love doesn't defend, then love is flawed. So they rose up, not just as admirers, but as shields. At every concert, he gives more than just his voice. He gave his soul, brightening up the cold night with a smile and a hug in his eyes. Now, the world wants to know, who will give it back to him? This neglect is a silent form of violence. It doesn't hurt the body, but it breaks the spirit. And wounds like this are the most dangerous, because they sneak in between the glare of the stage lights. There is some kind of deep-rooted injustice. Why should those who do good continue to pay the price? Why do those who choose to remain silent have to bear the burden, while those who are guilty hide behind the scenes? And when the question was asked, HYBE remained silent. No clarification, no defense. As if silence was the absolute answer to the truth. In fact, silence often hides mistakes. Taehyung kept walking, kept working, kept saying hello. But who could deny that the smile was starting to crack? Who could pretend that his eyes weren't as serene as before? No one wanted to see him fall. But if the system continued to push him without protection, even the sun could lose its shine. And the world wouldn't stand idly by if Taehyung was forced to die. Fans were beginning to demand, not just from HYBE, but from the industry as a whole. Idols had had enough of being used as tools without protection. They had enough of being used when they shone and discarded when they dimmed. Many of them were young, but their voices resonated powerfully. They weren't just demanding justice for Taehyung, but for all the idols who had been betrayed by the system they trusted. Taehyung had given so much. Songs, laughter, love, even the tears he hid to make others happy. And now, the world wanted only one thing, reciprocation in the form of true protection. But the days passed, and answers never came. Patience began to crack. If the voice of love wasn't heard, then the world would know they had to shout louder, deeper. HYBE might be able to ignore a single comment. But not with a sea of united hearts. Not with hundreds of millions of eyes watching their every move, waiting for responsibility. Taehyung is no longer a child. But even adults need a hug when the world gets too harsh. And if there's no hug from within, then the world will extend its own. What's the point of an agency without integrity? What's the point of management without empathy? If money is the goal, then they've forgotten that Taehyung is the reason for that money. And if that reason is hurt, everything will collapse. Now other voices are emerging. Former staff, observers, and even international media are beginning to question HYBE's silence. Everyone feels they're hiding something. Something darker than what appears on the surface. The more they remain silent, the wilder the speculation. And amidst it all, Taehyung continues to smile. But the world can see the tears, even though they don't flow down his cheeks. There's a sense of betrayal. As if the trust they've built up is shattered simply because the company is more afraid of losing its image than losing someone's heart.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.